everybody, welcome back. Today I am going to do part 2 of the smallest cameras possible with interchangeable lenses that can give you a blurry background. I like to travel a lot. I like to go around town a lot. I like to just spontaneously go with my girlfriend to restaurants around town, just walking around. And I always want to have a camera with me. And when I take pictures, I want it to look cool, like, with a blurry background and everything. But I don't want to have to lug a heavy professional camera around. So for me, the smallest, lightest camera possible is key. That's what makes me happy, because I don't want to have anything big and heavy. So I'm going to show you what's out there, because I've been doing a lot of research on what the smallest cameras are that out there that are any good, that have interchangeable lenses, because an interchangeable lens is really the only way you're going to get a blurry background. So that's what these are, and I'm trying to not have to carry something big and heavy like this around, because this is what professional photographers use. But I want something that looks just as good but small to carry around. So here we go. If you haven't seen part 1 of this, see part 1. Part 1 is where I started this whole thing, and I go down the line. It's been a few months, so now this is part 2. There's been some new cameras coming out, and I found some older ones also that you can still get that are just as cool. So let's start. Here we go. I'm going to start off with the most obvious one, and that is the new 6400. This just came out. Everybody's talking about it, and I can see why. It's the biggest and heaviest of the whole bunch of what they consider a small camera. Finally, it has a flip-up screen, so you can do selfies, and it's kind of big and heavy camera for doing selfie stuff, but it does have the flip-up screen, which is great. This is the newer version of the 6300, which I still love. This thing is great. There's an even smaller, older camera body, the A5100, that's thinner and smaller and lighter, and they still cost like $550, which tells you it's a really desirable, good camera. It has a touch screen that flips all the way up, which is really cool. The 5100 is the smallest of almost all the cameras here. It is the Sony APS-C in its simplest form. It has the same image sensor as the 6300, 64, and the 6500, so it takes the same quality of pictures. It's so pared down, it has no dials. Almost everything is done on the touch screen. Has no hot shoe, no viewfinder. It only has 179 focus points and no microphone port. Very, very basic, but it takes really good quality pictures with good color. So if you want the smallest camera that's really good quality, this is the very smallest of the Sony cameras. You can still find them out there. And of course, this is APS-C E-mount, and it has all kinds of lenses that you can put on here. But again, my thing is to have the smallest lenses possible. The smallest lenses that can give you a blurry background. And those ones are, the best of all is the Sigma 56 1.4, which is this. That paired with a 6400, and you've got the Rolls Royce. Great autofocus and background blur. The Sony 51.8 has been there around forever. It's the fastest, sharpest lens. It's small, super sharp, really fast autofocus. And it is a great lens to always have. And then we get into the aftermarket ones. We have the Camlan. The Camlan is great. It's a really cheap lens, 50 millimeters, 1.1. It only costs $180. And it works pretty good with the Sony 6000 series. It doesn't work that good with some of the other lens mounts, but for some reason it works really good with the 6300, 6400, 6500. It is manual focus. The Sigma 30 millimeter, 1.4, it's $300. Fast autofocus and good depth of field. The Rokinon 50 millimeter 1.2 is $400. It has a really nice look, but it is manual though. The Sony 51.8 is $300, and the best of all, the Sigma 56 1.4 is only $400, so that's really good. Again, the idea is to not have something big like this to carry around with you. It's a smaller one. So this is smaller. Look how much smaller it is, but it's still pretty big as far as small cameras go. So moving down the line, and I'm going to show you at the end of this, which I think are the best cameras possible for quality, for weight, for size, and for usability. The smallest camera that Fuji has with an interchangeable lens is the XA5. This is the smallest one. I got a little excited about it when I got it. I'm sorry, Fuji lovers, but it's got so many things that frustrate with me. I just don't even want to get into it. It costs $500. The only lens that really gives you a blurry background that's decent is this big, heavy Fuji 56 1.2. This is a great lens. The one thing that Fuji has going for it is the skin tones. Really, really good skin tones, really good color, but that alone in itself is not enough to make me want to use this. And when you pair this big heavy lens with this camera, you've got a monster. This thing is not a small portable camera that you can just carry around town in your pocket or something. This is getting into more professional size and weight. So this is not a small, lightweight pocket camera. The next size down is smaller. It's 10 times better than this. It's smaller. It has a 35 millimeter, it's got a filter on it, so it's even smaller. This is full frame. This full frame camera is smaller and better than this thing, but it costs $3,000. So this takes it out of range for most people. This is the RX1R2 from Sony. This is like, some people take this on vacation as their only camera. Full frame, 35 millimeter. The screen doesn't flip up all the way, but as far as picture quality, this outdoes every camera on this table. It is just the sharpest, but it's expensive. It weighs 1 pound, 3.5 ounces, so it's 553 grams for this thing. Next up, this one is probably one that most of you have not heard of, and I'm gonna make a video specifically about this. This is it's a Chinese camera called the Yi. The Yi camera, the Yi M1 4K. This thing does 4K, and this thing blows my mind. It only weighs 10.3 ounces, which is 292 grams. It comes with 2 lenses. Get this, it comes with a zoom lens, it comes with a 12 to 40 millimeter lens, and it comes with a 42.5 1.8 lens, which gives you nice blurry backgrounds. It's a micro 4/3 lens mount, so you can mount any lens that's micro 4/3 on this thing. It has a Sony sensor. It's small, it's lightweight. 4K video, 60 frames per second at 1080p, 20 megapixel pictures, micro 4/3 mount, Sony sensor, 3-inch LCD screen, touch screen, by the way, that does not flip up, unfortunately. The ISO goes up to 25,600, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, does time lapse, and get this, the whole thing with the 2 lenses only weighs 10 ounces, $279. This little thing is only $279 for 2 lenses. It's lightweight. You can't get cheaper than this. Now, the picture quality is touch and go. You got to really know what you're doing. I'll cover this camera later on, specifically in another video. You can take good pictures of it, indoors especially. Outdoors, it becomes kind of touch and go. You got to know what you're doing. Everything is adjusted on the touch screen, so that can become a little bit frustrating for a lot of people. And because the picture quality is a little unpredictable, I think most people are going to see this as a crappy toy camera. But people like me who love to tinker, to see how much they can get out of something, see this as a fun thing to mess around with. Hey, it's only $279, but it's not a serious photographer's camera. It's a fun camera. Something to play around with. Speaking of Chinese cameras, there's another one coming out this month, the Yongnuo YN450 Android camera. It's a micro 4/3 sensor, and it has a Canon EF mount, which is kind of silly because Canon EF lenses are the big, heavy Canon lenses. They should have at least had an EF-M mount, but no, for some reason, they went big-time EF mount, so that means you got a little tiny flat camera, but you got to put these big, honking, heavy-duty lenses on it, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a small camera. But the camera is tiny and it's flat. So now, moving on, and again, I'm going to make a video about this. Here we have Canon. This is the smallest interchangeable lens camera that Canon has. It's the M100. It's an EOS M-series. EF-M mount, which is different than the EF mount. This camera is $450. It only weighs 10.6 ounces, which is 300 grams. It has the all-revered flip-up screen that everybody wants. It's APS-C, and there's a million lenses that you can, people don't know this, but there are EF-M lenses that you can put on here other than Canon. For example, here we have the Rokinon. The Rokinon 50 1.2, $450. Here we have an Optica. This is a really cheap one. It's pretty good though, 50 millimeter f2, only $98 for this lens. Here's a Canon lens. It's a 22 1.2, $200. Here we have a Camlan, again, 50 millimeter 1.1, $179. It's EF-M mount. Again, it's not EF mount, it's EF-M mount, but there are a bunch of lenses that can give you blurry backgrounds that this camera can take. Canon also has a really high quality 32mm 1.4 EFM lens. It's like $450. That's a great lens to have with this camera. Nice blurry backgrounds. It is small. It's comparable to the Sony 50mm 1.8. If you put the Sony with the 50mm 1.8 next to the Canon M100 with the 32mm 1.4, they're about the same size, the same weight. But as far as the look of the pictures, I would still go with the Sony. The Canon images are a little too contrasty for me, and I like the skin tones of the Sony more. But both are great cameras. Both cameras only have one dial. Most of the adjustments is done on the touchscreen, both of which flip all the way up, which is really cool. So the camera's $450, and this nice 32mm is $450. And if you put the two together, it's a $900 camera and lens set. And Canon, of course, is pretty dependable and rugged. I don't like the on-off switch. You have to push here. It's kind of simplified. It's a simplified Canon. It's not like a full bells and whistles Canon, but it's pretty good. I mean, look how small this is. This is good. All right, moving on. Here we have a even slightly smaller camera. This is Panasonic. Now we're getting into the Lumix line. This is the GF2. The screen does not flip up. It has a 3-inch touchscreen, though. It is a touchscreen. It comes with a 14-42 lens, which I just throw away. This camera has, if you notice, has the same lens that this one does, which is the same one that this one does. It's my favorite. I bought 3 of them because I like them so much. They're not that expensive. It's the Olympus 45mm M-series 1.8. Really good for blurry backgrounds. And this camera, it's kind of like a pocket camera that you can take the lens off and put any lens you want on there. It has a hot shoe mount, so you can do a flash on there. It has its own built-in flash, touchscreen. Great little camera, $350, 10.9 ounces, 309 grams. But my favorite camera of the Panasonics is this one here. As you can see, I have 3 of them. That's why I like this camera. This is the smallest, lightest, interchangeable lens camera that you can do a lot of things with. It's 4K. It has again, the thing that everybody loves, the flip-up screen on a little tiny camera so you can do your selfies. Micro Four Thirds mount, so you can mount any lens you want that's Micro Four Thirds on there. That's my favorite lens, is the M-series Olympus 45 1.8. Also, another good lens here is the Lumix 25. This gives you nice blurry backgrounds also, believe it or not. It's really nice. Another great lens for the 850 is the Olympus 17mm 1.2. 1.2 means nice blurry backgrounds, but the lens is getting a little bit big and heavy for small, compact, lightweight cameras. It's just this lens takes really good pictures. If you want a wider angle lens with blurry backgrounds, this is definitely a good lens to consider, although it is a little bit bigger and heavier, again, for compact cameras. And it's not cheap. It's $1,000. The GX850 only weighs 9.4 ounces, which is 266 grams. It's super lightweight. This camera costs $500. This lens is $400. For $900, you've got probably one of the smallest cameras with a flip-up screen that you can take with you on the town. 4K video. This is one of my favorite cameras of all. And I thought I'd add, just for fun, because it's such a unique camera, on the end here, we have a Samsung NX Mini. Most people have not even heard of this camera. This camera is made by Samsung, which is famous for making cell phones. They've really concentrated on how to get the most out of a sensor. It has a 1-inch sensor. It does 1080p video, 20 megapixel pictures. It has a 3-inch flip-up touchscreen. Get this. This thing is as flat as a deck of cards, and it has a flip-up screen. And get this, it's an interchangeable lens camera. It's like the size of, it is like a cell phone, but it's got an interchangeable lens camera setup here. It comes with a 9-27 normal lens, but you can buy this lens, which is a 17mm lens, which is comparable to a 50mm in a full frame camera. This little tiny lens is not cheap, and neither is this. The reason is, the people that know about this know how great this thing is. Really good quality. It even has a little flash. If you look at the Amazon reviews, the lens and the camera have full 5-star reviews. People who have this love this. The camera is $400 on Amazon. After all these years, this thing is still $400. There's a reason for that, because people who have this know what this is worth. The lens, this lens here, the 17mm, is $330. So this is not to be taken lightly. This is not a cheap throwaway lens. This one, they have 2 lenses and a camera for $279. This thing, it's $400 plus $300, so this is twice the price of this thing. It doesn't have totally blurry background. It's a little bit blurry, but It is a camera to have if you're going around town. You want to have something in your pocket, but you still want to have some control. You still want to have some cool pictures. You still want to have a little bit of a blur back. This one is definitely one to think about. I'm going to make a video about that also. So, all right. So now we're at the end of this thing here. So which ones of these are my favorites? Which ones of these are the best quality? Which ones do I recommend? The one that just blows everything away, that as far as picture quality, the ability to do anything, flip up screen, by far is the 6400. It's a $1,300 camera. The 6300, which is the older model, it's only $750. They do almost the same thing. The difference is this one has a flip-up screen, and it has better autofocus. It can track someone's eye and keep their face in focus no matter what they're doing. They're jumping around, so it's really good for that. But for just plain old picture quality, both are exactly the same picture quality. The 56 1.4 Sigma lens, so this is the best combination. The problem is this is not really a pocket camera. It's not really that lightweight. It has a nice grip though to it, so you can just walk around like this with it. This is the Rolls Royce. This is the, I mean, this one is too, full frame, but $3,000. But this lens is attached to it. You can't take the lens off. This one, you can put any lens you want on there, which is so much more important to me. So this one is, if you want like the best of all of these, this one. The second one that I recommend, as far as the smallest, most lightweight, that gives you the coolest pictures, by far for me, it's the Lumix GX850. This thing, it's my most favorite fun camera to use out of all of these. It doesn't have a viewfinder. I'm going to make a review on this camera just by itself also. I have 3 of these, so there's a reason for that. With this lens and this body and this camera, just for taking around town, it's tiny, tiny little thing. This one is the one out of all of these that I recommend as far as pocketability. If you don't really care about blurry backgrounds, get this thing. This thing is amazing. It has slightly blurry backgrounds, but for the flip up screen and the size, you can literally put that thing in your pocket pretty much. So I'm going to have something you can download below in the description below it's a JPEG file that's going to have all these cameras, the prices, the weights, the sizes, the mounts, the sensor size, the cost, everything that you want to know that you can compare these with. And I might even have some picture qualities that you can see with picture quality that they take, so you can compare them. I'm trying to give you as many options to consider as possible. But for me, I do have a lot of professional gear, but when I walk around town, I don't want to have big heavy stuff. I want to have the smallest, most lightweight thing possible that still takes cool pictures. That's why I do this. That's my obsession. The smallest, most lightweight thing possible. So I hope this helped. I hope this inspires you. I hope this gives you some ideas. You can look further online, but these are the ones that I have found to be the smallest, most lightweight cameras that you can get that have interchangeable lenses that take decent pictures with blurry backgrounds. So I hope this helped. Stay tuned. I give a lot of stuff away. Some of this stuff I'm going to give away because I just don't need it. I get it because I'm curious and I want to play with it, and then I give it away. Again, what I ask is all that you do is that you tell people about this channel, because I want people to share in the love of photography, and that's it. I don't want to ramble on. I'll see you in the next video, and I'm going to give you more reviews on some of these specific cameras here. See you in the next video.